Most people think insulin resistance takes months or years to improve. But what if your body could start responding better to insulin in just 1 week? Here's the truth. Certain everyday foods have been shown to support insulin sensitivity surprisingly quickly, not because they're magic, but because they work with your metabolism rather than against it. And no, this isn't about extreme dieting or cutting out everything you enjoy. These are simple, realistic foods you can add to meals starting today. Foods backed by real research, not internet hype. In fact, small changes in what you eat can start lowering blood sugar spikes, improving how your cells use glucose, and reducing inflammation. All key factors in insulin resistance. And the best part is, these foods don't require complicated recipes or expensive ingredients. They're affordable, accessible, and easy to work into your daily routine. In the next few minutes, I'll break down 3 of the best options, why they actually work inside your body, and easy ways to eat them this week. Let's get into it. Let's start with one of the most underestimated foods for improving insulin sensitivity: whole grains, especially oats and barley. Now, a lot of people hear carbs and instantly assume they're bad for blood sugar, but not all carbs behave the same way. Whole grains are different because they come packaged with something extremely powerful: soluble fiber. Oats in particular contain a specific type of fiber called beta-glucan. And what beta-glucan does is slow down how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream after you eat. Instead of a sharp spike, you get a gradual rise. That's important because insulin resistance is often driven by repeated blood sugar surges that force your pancreas to pump out more and more insulin. When meals cause smaller spikes, your cells don't have to fight against insulin as much. Over time, and sometimes even within days, your body becomes more responsive again. But oats do even more than slow sugar. Beta-glucan also improves the way your gut processes food. It feeds beneficial bacteria in the digestive system, and a healthier gut microbiome has been directly linked to better insulin sensitivity and lower inflammation. And inflammation is one of the key hidden drivers behind insulin resistance. Barley works in a similar way. In fact, barley is one of the highest beta-glucan grains available, and some studies show it can significantly reduce post-meal glucose levels compared to refined grains. Another reason whole grains help is because they support better satiety. When you eat oats or barley, you stay full longer, which naturally reduces cravings for sugary snacks or fast-digesting carbs later in the day. And this matters because insulin resistance isn't only about what you eat, it's also about how often you're triggering blood sugar swings throughout the day. Another fascinating benefit is something researchers call the second meal effect. This means that eating oats at breakfast doesn't just help your blood sugar after breakfast, it can actually improve your blood sugar response at your next meal too. So this is not just a breakfast food, it's a metabolic support tool. And there's another important reason oats and barley are so effective. They improve how your muscles store glucose. When you eat high-fiber whole grains, your body becomes better at moving glucose out of the blood and into muscle tissue, where it can be used for energy instead of staying in circulation. This reduces the workload on insulin. Whole grains are also rich in magnesium, a mineral that plays a direct role in insulin signaling. Research has shown that people who consume more magnesium-rich foods tend to have better glucose control and a lower risk of type 2 diabetes. And unlike refined carbs, whole grains still contain their natural structure, the bran and germ, which means digestion takes longer, insulin demand is lower, and energy is released steadily over time. That's why swapping refined grains like white bread or sugary cereal for oats or barley can create noticeable improvements surprisingly quickly. And oats are also incredibly simple to use. A practical meal idea is Oatmeal with chia seeds, a handful of berries, maybe a few crushed walnuts for healthy fats. That combination gives fiber, antioxidants, and slow digesting energy. If you don't like sweet breakfasts, savory oats with eggs or vegetables work too. And if you want to try barley, it works perfectly in soups, grain bowls, or as a rice substitute. The goal isn't perfection, it's giving your body a smoother glucose curve, and whole grains are one of the easiest first steps. One more reason oats and barley deserve attention is because they help reduce glycemic load across the entire day. Insulin resistance isn't just about one sugary snack. It's about repeatedly eating foods that digest too quickly. Whole grains help slow that pattern down. They also support heart health, which matters because insulin resistance often comes with higher cholesterol and cardiovascular risk. Beta-glucan fiber has been shown to lower LDL cholesterol, giving oats and barley a double benefit. It's also worth mentioning that preparation matters. Sugary instant oat packets don't have the same effect as plain rolled oats. The closer the grain is to its natural form, the more powerful its impact. So if you're looking for a simple upgrade this week, swapping refined grains for oats or barley is one of the smartest moves you can make. Now the next food, and it's one of the most powerful for blood sugar control. If there's one food group that consistently shows up in research on insulin sensitivity, it's legumes, beans, lentils, and chickpeas. And the reason is simple. They're one of the most balanced metabolic foods you can eat. Legumes contain a rare combination of slow digesting carbohydrates, high fiber, and plant-based protein. That mix is exactly what insulin-resistant bodies respond well to. When you eat refined carbs, was like white bread or sugary snacks, glucose hits your bloodstream quickly. But when you eat lentils or beans, digestion slows dramatically. The fiber acts like a metabolic brake. This means your blood sugar rises slower, insulin stays more stable, and your cells have time to absorb glucose efficiently. Legumes also reduce the overall insulin demand of a meal by lowering the glycemic index. Lentils and chickpeas are among the lowest glycemic carb sources available, making them ideal for steady glucose control. But legumes go beyond blood sugar. One of their biggest benefits is how they support the gut. Legumes feed your gut microbiome, which plays a major role in insulin sensitivity. When gut bacteria digest fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids, compounds linked to better insulin function and reduced inflammation. And inflammation is one of the hidden drivers of insulin resistance. Legumes are also rich in resistant starch, which slows digestion even further and prevents sharp glucose spikes. This is one reason beans are so filling and stabilizing. And there's another key benefit here. Legumes help improve how your body handles carbohydrates over time. When you consistently replace refined carbs with beans or lentils, your muscles become more efficient at storing glucose, and your body needs less insulin to do the same job. That's the definition of improved sensitivity. Legumes also support healthier cholesterol levels and cardiovascular markers, which matters because insulin resistance often overlaps with metabolic syndrome, a cluster of issues that includes high blood pressure, abdominal fat, and poor lipid balance. In other words, legumes don't just help with glucose, they support the entire metabolic system. And speaking of fullness, legumes are one of the best foods for appetite control. Because they contain both fiber and protein, they help reduce cravings, overeating, and frequent snacking, all of which support better blood sugar balance. They also provide key minerals insulin-resistant bodies often need more of, like magnesium, potassium, and folate. Legumes are also a powerful replacement food. Instead of white rice, pasta, crackers, you can choose lentils, black beans, chickpeas. That simple swap can significantly lower the insulin impact of a meal, and research consistently shows diets rich in legumes are linked with lower rates of type 2 diabetes and improved metabolic health. The best part? Legumes are cheap, filling, and easy to add into meals. Simple ideas include lentil soup with vegetables, chickpeas in salads, black beans in bowls, hummus instead of chips. Some people worry about bloating, but starting small and rinsing canned beans helps most people adjust quickly. Even replacing one meal a day with legumes can lead to more stable energy and fewer cravings within a week. So if oats are the smooth glucose foundation, legumes are the stabilizing anchor. Another reason legumes are so powerful is because they help improve insulin response over the long term. When you eat meals rich in beans or lentils, your body doesn't just experience a smaller blood sugar rise, it becomes more efficient at handling carbohydrates. Over time, that means less insulin is needed to manage the same amount of glucose. Legumes also contain antioxidants and polyphenols, which help reduce oxidative stress, another factor that can interfere with insulin signaling. They're also extremely versatile. You can easily add them to meals without changing your routine. Toss beans into a bowl, stir lentils into soup, or use chickpeas in a simple salad. Even small servings can create real metabolic benefits, and their slow digestion helps prevent energy crashes that lead back to sugary snacks. That's what makes legumes such a powerful anchor food for long-term blood sugar stability. Let's move to the most surprising food on this list. And yes, it might actually feel like a treat. Most people don't expect this one. But one of the most interesting foods linked to improved insulin sensitivity is cocoa, specifically dark chocolate. Now, before you hear that and think this is permission to eat candy bars, we're talking about real dark chocolate, the kind that's at least 70% cocoa, with minimal added sugar. Cocoa is rich in compounds called polyphenols, natural plant chemicals that support blood vessel function, reduce oxidative stress, and improve how cells respond to insulin. Here's why that matters. Insulin resistance isn't just about sugar, it's also about how well your body delivers glucose into muscles and tissues. Healthy circulation plays a role. Polyphenols help improve nitric oxide levels, which supports better blood flow. Better blood flow means nutrients and insulin can move more efficiently through the body. And that's a big deal because insulin has to travel through the bloodstream to reach your cells. If circulation is poor or inflammation is high, insulin becomes less effective, even if your body produces plenty of it. Cocoa also appears to reduce inflammation. Again, one of the major drivers behind insulin resistance. But there's another important mechanism here. Cocoa helps protect the body from oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is basically cellular damage caused by an overload of free radicals. And in insulin resistance, oxidative stress can interfere with insulin receptors, making it harder for cells to respond properly. Polyphenols act as antioxidants, helping reduce that stress and allowing insulin signaling pathways to work more effectively. Several studies show modest improvements in insulin markers when people consume small amounts of dark chocolate consistently. Not huge overnight changes, but measurable improvements in glucose metabolism, especially when combined with an overall healthy diet. And what's interesting is that cocoa's benefits go beyond insulin. Dark chocolate has also been linked to improvements in cardiovascular health, including lower blood pressure and better endothelial function, the health of your blood vessels. That matters because insulin resistance and heart disease often overlap. Supporting vascular health is part of improving metabolic health overall. Now, the key here is moderation. Dark chocolate is still calorie dense, and if it's loaded with sugar, it can cancel out the benefits. That's why quality matters. A practical amount is 1 to 2 small squares per day, ideally after a meal, not on an empty stomach. That way you get the polyphenols without triggering a sugar spike. And if you want an even cleaner option, unsweetened cocoa powder can be one of the best metabolic upgrades. You can add it to smoothies, oatmeal, yogurt. This gives you the polyphenols without the added sugar. And here's a helpful tip. Pairing cocoa with fiber or protein makes the glucose response even smoother. For example, cocoa and oats, cocoa and Greek yogurt, cocoa blended with nut butter. Those combinations slow absorption and improve metabolic balance. Now, it's also important to understand what cocoa is not. Chocolate isn't a miracle cure, and the effects aren't the same as exercise or major diet changes. But cocoa is a legitimate metabolic support food when used correctly, almost like a bonus tool. A small daily amount can contribute to better insulin sensitivity by lowering inflammation, supporting circulation, and improving cellular function. And perhaps the most powerful part, it makes healthy eating feel enjoyable. When people believe metabolic health means restriction forever, they give up. But foods like cocoa show that supportive choices can still feel satisfying. So yes, dark chocolate can be part of an insulin-friendly routine, not as candy, not as a cheat, but as a functional food in the right form. Another interesting detail is that cocoa's effect seems strongest when it replaces unhealthy sweets, not when it's added on top of a high-sugar diet. Swapping a processed dessert for a small amount of dark chocolate can improve the metabolic impact of your day. Cocoa may also help reduce stress hormones and improve mood, which can indirectly support insulin sensitivity. Chronic stress raises cortisol, and elevated cortisol can worsen insulin resistance over time. So when used wisely, cocoa becomes more than a treat. It's a small, sustainable tool that supports metabolic health and long-term consistency. Because food matters, but there's one daily habit that improves insulin sensitivity faster than almost anything else. So here's the truth. Foods help, a lot. But insulin sensitivity improves fastest when food and lifestyle work together. And the most powerful 7-day strategy is shockingly simple. Eat the right meals and walk after them. Even short walks, 10 to 15 minutes after eating, can significantly reduce blood sugar spikes. Why? Because your muscles act like glucose sponges. When you move, muscle cells can absorb sugar from the bloodstream without needing as much insulin. That gives your pancreas a break, lowers circulating glucose, and improves cellular response. This is one of the fastest ways the body becomes more insulin sensitive, sometimes within just a few days. And what makes this so powerful is that movement activates something called GLUT4 transporters inside muscle cells. These transporters are basically doors that open up and pull glucose out of the blood and into muscle tissue for energy. The key point is, this process doesn't rely entirely on insulin. So even if your body is resistant, movement gives you another pathway to clear glucose efficiently. That's why a simple walk after meals is one of the most underrated metabolic tools available. And it doesn't take an intense workout. Research shows that light activity after eating can significantly reduce post-meal glucose levels compared to sitting. Just walking around your neighborhood, doing chores, or moving your body gently can make a measurable difference. Now imagine pairing that with the foods you learned today. Oats in the morning, lentils or beans at lunch, vegetables and protein at dinner, a little dark chocolate after meals, and then walking for 10 minutes after eating. That combination creates a powerful metabolic shift. Fewer glucose spikes, lower inflammation, improved muscle glucose uptake, better insulin signaling, and it doesn't require dieting extremes. It's simple, it's repeatable, And it's exactly how real insulin improvement happens. Now let's take this a little deeper. Insulin resistance often comes from constant overload, too many refined carbs, too many glucose surges, and too little muscle activity. So the goal of the next 7 days is not perfection. It's reducing the number of times your body has to fight to control blood sugar. That's why meal structure matters. A good insulin-friendly plate is usually built like this: fiber first, protein second, carbs last. For example, eating vegetables and protein before starch can actually lower the glucose spike from the meal. This is a simple sequencing trick that improves insulin response without changing what you eat dramatically. Another helpful strategy is focusing on consistent meal timing. Constant snacking keeps insulin elevated all day, but structured meals with breaks in between allow insulin levels to come down, giving receptors time to reset. Even within a week, that creates a noticeable improvement in metabolic flexibility. Now let's talk about the role of muscle. Muscle is one of the largest glucose storage sites in the body. The more active your muscle tissue is, the more glucose you can clear from the bloodstream. That's why strength training also improves insulin sensitivity. Even though walking is the fastest starting point, you don't need a gym. Even bodyweight movements a few times a week, combined with daily walks, can amplify results. Another powerful factor is sleep. Poor sleep increases insulin resistance almost immediately. Just a few nights of short sleep raises cortisol, increases cravings, and reduces glucose tolerance. So if you want a true 7-day boost, prioritize walking after meals, fiber-rich foods, and consistent sleep. That trio is incredibly effective. And don't underestimate stress. Chronic stress keeps cortisol high, and cortisol directly raises blood sugar. This is why calming daily habits, even breathing, stretching, or short outdoor walks, can indirectly improve insulin sensitivity. So instead of looking for magic foods, use smart foods consistently, support your metabolism daily, and let your body respond. Because insulin sensitivity isn't about doing something dramatic. It's about doing the right simple things every day, starting now. If you follow this for a week, you may notice fewer cravings, steadier energy, less afternoon fatigue, improved hunger control, and smoother blood sugar responses. Not because your body changed overnight, but because you removed the constant spikes and gave your cells room to respond again. That's how real improvement starts. Small steps, daily consistency, and a body that begins working with you instead of against you. Insulin sensitivity isn't about finding one miracle food or doing something extreme overnight. It's about understanding the real mechanism, how your body handles glucose, how your cells respond to insulin, and how small daily choices can shift that process in the right direction. Oats help slow absorption. Legumes improve gut-driven metabolism. Cocoa supports circulation and inflammation. And movement after meals may be one of the fastest ways to activate glucose uptake where it matters most. This is where most people get it wrong. They chase restriction when consistency is what actually changes the signal inside the body. The goal isn't perfection. It's building simple habits that reduce stress on your metabolism and make blood sugar easier to manage day after day. And when those habits stack up, real change becomes sustainable, not stressful, not complicated, just steady progress. If you want more simple science-backed strategies like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and check out the next video on improving blood sugar naturally.